amazing guest in Sarah. We welcome you, Sarah. This is Falguni, accompanied by my wonderful raw ladies, Ash, Linda, and Caren, and we have Sarah joining us today. We are bringing you another episode of eye-opening, wonderful conversations around raw and fearless topics, that candid conversations with humans, with real life ladies that are going through some of these changes are going to talk about. So welcome everybody. And Sarah is joining us today, who is an intuitive life coach and also talks about self-awareness. How can it get better than that? I am so excited to go inside of this conversation and learn more about Sarah, learn more from her experiences. And I'm so excited for you to have joined us today, Sarah. Thank you and welcome.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
I just want to say thank you. I said on recording, Sarah and I met. Sarah and I belong to the Mob Nation. It's a women's networking group. It's an amazing group of women, and that's how she and I met. And we just kind of clicked and somewhat. And so she's a really cool human. But I just really think what she does with her intuitive coaching and with the mental health crisis and all the things that she's trying to do there and help parents navigate this insanity is just hugely important and really needs to get out there. So I just want to say thank you for I asked her and she said yes, and that was kind of it. So I just commend you for doing that.
Of course. Thank you.
Yep. When we ask somebody and they say yes, then I just take it as a sign, as if it was meant to be. The group is a proof of that. Like, we just literally called each other just one time, and before the end of the call it was yes. So this is meant to be, guys. So welcome to the gang, Sarah.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful. So Sarah, we would love to hear from you a little bit about yourself, about your story, your why, whatever you're willing to share with us, and something that wakes you up every morning and wants you to do the work you are doing. We would love to hear that.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I think about what wakes me up every morning, I'll start with that. It's definitely this drive or this feeling inside of me that I need to reach people. And so even when I'm feeling maybe tired or, frustrated or feeling like maybe something's not going to work, there's always this sense or this knowing that people need to hear from me. And to give you a little bit about my story so that it all really makes sense, is that I was an ad tech executive, had worked my way up in the organization. On the outside, had everything. Everyone thought, wow, look, you've worked, you've got a seat at the table, you have all this. But inside I was dead. I was miserable. I wasn't happy. I was burned out. And about a year or so into being in that role, my daughter became ill. She ultimately was diagnosed with schizophrenia. And being a woman in leadership, I didn't want to take FMLA for fear that I would lose my position. So I tried to keep everything together. My husband's an airline pilot, so he's gone quite a bit. Just kept going, kept pushing, kept taking care of her, and just hit a point where I realized I couldn't do it any longer. And I quit. I actually called my boss on a Saturday and I said, I want to let you know that I'm going to be giving my notice on Monday. And during that time period, I had been getting certified through ICF for coaching, and decided I was going to go do that for myself, have the flexibility, be able to take care of my daughter. I really felt like executive coaching, I had coaching at the time my daughter became ill, and I really felt like it is what took me from the most hopeless point in my life to pushing me forward. And all I kept thinking was, everybody has to experience this. Everybody has to understand the power of coaching. And she's stable, she's great, she's doing really well. She's finishing her sophomore year in college right now. So she's doing really well. But then, kind of following that, this need of just letting people know of our story, letting them know what had happened, letting them know how broken our mental health system is. all of our experiences, which is what prompted me to write the book, but also just sharing on social media. And so every week I leave some time available for pro bono calls for parents that may be going through something with a child. And I would like to say that those are usually all open, but they're not. Usually they're always full. And, you know, I make time. I want to make sure I can talk to them and I can help them. And that is definitely what keeps me going. Because what happens for me is that if I can help someone, then that makes everything that I went through have a purpose.
So
I want to jump
beautiful. Yeah.
and say something that's touched me just by what you shared, Sarah. You're right. The mental health system is broken. My daughter went through some really tough things, and I will kid you not, to find a counselor that she could bond with, that wasn't judgmental, and telling her right before she even met her what her problems were was extremely difficult. We went through several of these different counselors, and it's very hard to find someone in the network that's open and available because the appointments are gone, and be able to have that accepted by the insurance. There came a point I didn't even care if it was accepted by the insurance if I could find a bond in counselor. So I just want to say thank you for offering that need and doing it pro bono as well when you can. I can't say enough that how much that is needed, and for people to be able to find someone that they can go to and trust. That's really hard as a parent, because the kids are at an age where once they turn 14, they can take care of their own medical care, even though they're not adults.
Yeah.
There were two things that really stick out for me. Number one is the choice. Like you got to a point in your life, you were dead and you were doing, you're doing what you had to do, whatever you want to call it. And you had to make a choice, but you chose, like, that's the thing about it. It's about choices, right? So you were like, and you had to take leap of faith, if you will, to leave your corporate job because you had to take care of your child, and you wanted to. Not even so much you had to, you wanted to. That's what we do as moms. We take care of our kids. But what I really, really like, even though it sounds weird that I'm saying it like that, is how you're open about it. So often, and even I know recently you, because I follow you on social media, so I know you have the calling about speaking to people and stuff, and I joke that she's like looking over and coast now, but we can get to that later. But like how open you are about it, I think that is a hugely important thing, because people will hear you, and your pro bono, you said, is always booked. So the fact is, there are other people out there that you are reaching and helping in a way that is beyond anything I can personally comprehend, quite frankly. You know what I mean? And I think that's a hugely important piece, because usually it's so swept under the rug, and there's so much judgment, and there's so much whatever you want to say. Stigma. Yes, thank you. Yeah. And so people are afraid to talk about it, and you're out there boldly having this conversation, writing a book about it, like really purposely driving it home to, no, we have to talk about this. It's broken. Even if we can't fix it, but how do we navigate it?
And I feel the reason that I have to be open about it is because someone that's going through it doesn't know where to go. Right. When I was going through it with my daughter, first of all, you don't know what's happening. Your whole world is just completely flipping. And it's not, and I talk about this in the book a little bit, she's on the spectrum, and I just kept saying it's extreme autism, right? Like I had made up a diagnosis, like that she had developed this thing that didn't exist. And I remember when we did have the diagnosis, who do you trust? Who do you go to? People don't know how to help. They haven't been through it before. There is a stigma, there is a fear. You see a lot of pity, a lot of, I remember sharing with a friend too, and said that if, unfortunately, if I had a child that had cancer, that I was certain that I would have all kinds of meal trains and help and people bringing food. But what was interesting was I never had any of that. And on top of that, I was asked to participate in a meal train. And I can remember thinking, okay, you clearly don't know what I'm going through right now. I mean, I was keeping her alive for 8 months because there wasn't any help. To your point, Linda, getting her into a doctor, there weren't any doctors that would see her. She was almost 18, so she was I'm getting feedback. I don't know do you guys hear the echo?
Yep.
I got that, I think. So they wouldn't see her because she was almost 18, and so out of that adolescence. But then they also wouldn't see her until she was 21 with other doctors. And it was like, okay. So we ended up driving her an hour and 15 minutes away. It was not covered under our insurance. Like you said, Linda, at that point, I didn't care anymore. But yeah, I mean, and all I kept thinking was, we have the means to get her where she needs to. We can pay the bills. And we went to a support group, and I sat with these other families that couldn't. And they were going through the same thing that we were going through. And I remember saying to my daughter when we left, because she was already starting to really do really well on the medication, and I said, I think we have to take what we've learned and help other people.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for bringing this, this wonderful, because especially with mental illness or mental health, there is so much stigma, like we're talking about it, right? And people still do not want to talk much about it. And then they don't understand, like you talked about cancer, right? People are bringing food, but they don't understand going through an illness that affects not just that person, but the whole family, the parents. How about your own self-care? What did you do to stay on top of things during this time? Like, I would break down, what did you do to, can you share with us?
Yeah, at first, nothing. At first, everything was just about keeping her alive. She had developed eating disorders. She had food avoidance. She wasn't eating. I had a 16-year-old at home at the time as well. So I was trying to keep things, normal for her. And every day it was just the hope of maybe she's going to be fine. We're going to wake up, everything's going to be fine. And I have a history of depression and anxiety, and it hit a certain point that her doctor recognized it in me. And she said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I need help. I've got to get help." I ended up being diagnosed with PTSD and sought out help and received EMDR therapy. And I really feel like, in combination with the EMDR therapy, but also completely hitting rock bottom, it took me to hit rock bottom and to have these feelings of, I can't do this, for me to start to turn around and look for something good, which was what led me to gratitude. And, you hear people talk about gratitude, and it sounds kind of like just this fluffy thing. It's just the default, right? Just be grateful for something. But I don't think I had ever experienced gratitude until I had hit that point. And really my self-care was born out of that, because I went out back, live in Florida. I went out back and I looked in the sky. I mean, I was like begging, like, there's got to be something good. And the sky was so beautiful. It was July, and I was like, oh, the beautiful blue sky in Florida. That's it. That's what I'm grateful for. And it got to the point where I knew I needed to go outside and be in the sun every day. So in the afternoons at about 3 o'clock, before we would get the afternoon rains, I would get in the pool, float around on my floaty. My daughter would come out. And at that time, she was hand-wringing a lot, talking a lot to herself. But I knew she was safe. She would be safe, and she would pace. And I would float in the pool for 30 minutes. And I thought, it was heaven. It was like, I knew she was okay. I felt good because I had gotten her out of her bedroom. And, I had an opportunity just to float around in the water.
Yeah, that's so many beautiful things that you shared here, Sarah. I really applaud you for the courage that you showed, not only in leaving your job, but even in openly acknowledging the fact. I think half of the struggle is when you acknowledge that this is a problem at hand. Only then can you start solving for it. So congratulations to you on actually doing that. And once you start acknowledging that and accepting that, can you work towards solving that, and which is what you did. and today you are helping others solve that. So that's just this incredible work, and many congratulations to you on that, and thank you for paving the way for so many, just by willing to share your experience. I cannot tell you guys enough about how much we think that getting through some of the challenges in life is one part of the story. The second part of it is volunteering and talking about it, like being that person that brings awareness to other people about a specific issue. Because now what happens is we have learned and gained experience, but if we don't share it, then it is only half of it's not, the purpose is not solved yet. You know what I mean? And I say this because it took me a lot of courage to come up. I have recently released a book, Sarah, as well. I just published it a few weeks ago, and in that I have opened up about a lot of things that I was not talking about, and thinking that it was not required, or thinking that why would somebody be interested, thinking it's giving away too much, thinking people will judge me, thinking so many things that are easier to hold back on. Like, why would you want to expose yourself to public, your personal life? Why would you want to talk about your kid having a certain problem to people? Like, you could be opening up yourself to a lot of mockery, to a lot of judgments, but you took that courage, you took that step of really for people that are going to learn from it. That's what your intention must have been, I'm assuming, right? That there are so many people that could gain benefit out of this experience, and that is much higher and much more important than somebody who is going to be judgmental. I mean, who cares about that, right? So that's a huge step. So I completely understand and appreciate the courage that you have shown, because it's real. It is a big deal, and you're going to definitely inspire many. We want to continue to hear your story and continue to hear how things went from there on.
Well, I'm so glad you said all that, Falguni, because Sarah, that leads me right into what you just 2 weeks ago you kind of let the cat out of the bag about speaking. It was very recently you let the cat out of the bag about something that you do that you were kind of like holding in. Can you share with us what that was and why so this is the point, like you kind of were holding it in, I guess, for whatever reason, and it's so interesting to me that you were helping others with your daughter and you're so open about other things, and what prompted you to, so what is it and what prompted you to finally share what is it?
Yeah, so that the moment that I told you about where I was seeking gratitude, something to be grateful for, was really the first step into really diving into my spirituality. And I have been able to communicate with people that have crossed since I was very young, and I have hidden it, and I have, I would let people know once in a while, but it was never anything I would really talk a lot about. And here I am working with women to help develop their intuition. And in my Facebook group, I'm pretty open. And it was the realization of how open and free I can be in that group, but I couldn't be free outside of that group. And it caused a few things. One, it caused anxiety because I have opened that. So I have spirit that come to me to try to connect with people, and I would continually tell, no, can't. And after a while it built up. And then I really have been feeling led to help people through grief, because there is the grief process while you're going through a mental illness diagnosis. And this is, being able to connect loved ones with those that have crossed or share messages is part of grief. And so I did. I decided just to, really kind of come out of the spiritual closet and say, this is who I am, and this is what I do. And I understand that not everyone's going to understand it, and I may lose people, but I can't hide it anymore. I've hidden it my whole life, and I immediately felt free. I immediately felt free.
I am intrigued. I'm sorry, you guys. Can you continue more? I want to.
and I just want to point out that because of that, right? Because I follow, like I said, I follow her on social media. What I've seen, like, I'm in this group, by the way. I'm in her Facebook group and everything. But like the difference, and not to say that your posts before were bad. That's not what I'm saying. But it feels like there's a different meaning to it. Like you know what I mean? Like I feel like that there's a different meaning. And the thing is also, you help others with their intuition. So I kind of feel like it's all like a big circle, you know, between, you know, the speaking to people who have crossed the mental illness, you know, the mental illness. I mean, I know it's not yours, but nonetheless, you will feel compelled to do something about it. So it's like all, you know, together. And the thing is, it's changed the way you come across to others. You feel that? Has anybody actually said that to you?
They haven't said it to me, but I feel it. I feel connected. I feel authentic. Spirituality was such a big part of my healing, but also my daughter's healing. I became a Reiki master. She's Reiki level 1. So we really connected and bonded energetically. And like I said, the spirituality piece was part of her healing. So as I was writing my book, I talked to my writing coach that's helping me. And I said, I don't know what to do with the spirituality piece, because I would never want people to assume that I think anyone that is in psychosis is having a spiritual awakening. And I wouldn't want someone to think that I'm not a proponent for medication. You know, because there are a lot of misconceptions, and there's controversy, right? And I would never want to spread any message that would leave anyone in a place that it could hurt them. But it was part of who I am and who my daughter is. And so, you know, she said, well, you don't have to give the whole story. You don't have to tell everything about yourself. And I was like, yeah. And I wrote it, and I didn't give a lot out. And then as I was reading it, it just felt, it didn't feel like me, because I do put it all out there. And I know there's other people like me. And, you know, if that can help bring comfort, then it's just something else I can do.
It's absolutely true. And would you like to share something you would like to share?
Me?
Yeah.
Like around what?
Around the spirituality or any experience, or the first time when you felt.
Yeah. So gosh, there's been so many things.
Anything recent even?
Yeah, I'm gonna share in my Facebook group. I was feeling a lot of anxiety. I was feeling like I needed to be in there. I needed to share. I had messages. There are a lot of spirits coming through. They were coming through into my bedroom, which is, I usually have really good boundaries, but if they're getting to that point, they're like, you know, hey, I'm here. And so I decided, I got up one morning and I set up that I was going to go live. I just put on an event in Facebook group, said I'm going to go live today. I dropped my daughter off at school. And when I came in, there was a gentleman that had passed sitting at my dining room table. And I had never had that experience before. So I kind of jumped and thought, okay, he must be here for the live event. So I came in, I went live. He was right here. He shared a lot of information. Again, I didn't know who it was going to land for. I didn't know if anybody was even hearing it that was in there. And he was very specific about a particular plant, where the plant was at, sharing where he was at in the house to his widow. He was very laid back. He was very, all this information. And when it was done, she sent me a picture of the plant. And it was exactly what I had described. And the plant was sitting on the dining room table. And what he was saying to her was that he was with her on the dining room table. And the plant had apparently been given to her as a gift from his funeral when he passed.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it was in the same basket and everything. And then it was quite funny. I mean, we had a lot of laughs afterwards because, I said, listen, I've never had an experience where somebody's been sitting in the house. And she said, oh yeah, he always liked to be early, so that makes sense. But even down to the clothes that he had on, what he was showing her, the words he was using, he had me say a phrase, and the phrase was the last text message that she had sent him.
Wow.
Unreal. Wow.
Amazing.
So, one question I want to ask you, Sarah, is that when you like experience those kind of things, the first time you may have, so do you like visually, like can you see them or you can just feel them?
I can feel them. It's funny because I've had to try to figure that out myself because, you know, I had other people and I'm like, I don't see them. Then I'm like, well, I think I kind of see them.
Right.
I actually looked it up not that long ago just to see the technical term, what it's called, but I sense them. So I know when they're here, and it's like like I see a movie playing in front of me. So I can see certain things. I can pick up their accents, if they have an accent or if they used to say certain things. When I speak, it will just come out that way.
So are you channeling at that point? Are you just channeling them and they are like, do you feel them in your body or you feel them outside, externally?
I have channeled before, but usually it's outside.
Outside. Okay.
Yeah. It's very draining. It's I've had a really hard time managing my energy. And that's been something that I've had to really take into account with even how I run my business, how I'm available for my family, and how I'm still able to be there for people without just.
That's what I was going to ask you. Like, how do you? Because you were saying about the boundaries, even with the people who are opposed. But how do you? This is going to sound weird the way I say it, but how do you like wash it off? I don't know how else to say it. But you know what I mean? Like, how do you? Because I can't say the other word that I want to really say in my head. Decarpentulent. I can't say. It's like the one word I can't say. But you know what I'm saying? Like, put it aside and be like, Sarah, mom. Sarah, wife. Sarah, I need to make dinner. You know what I mean? Like,
just switch it off. Yeah.
Just Sarah, I need to be Sarah. You know, without any other. I'm not coach. I'm not this. I'm not that. I'm not the other thing. You know what I mean?
I think this is why it's really important when doing this work that you have a mentor or someone that you're doing it with, because you really need to know how to protect yourself and protect your energy. So I know at one point I had a lot of spirit in the bedroom with me, and I would have cats and I would have all kinds of things. And I thought it was neat. You know, when I started opening this up, this was a few years ago, and I was kind of like, hey, I can do this. And then I realized, oh no, we can't do that anymore because it was all night. And but now what happens is when they do come through and they're very persistent, once, like in that situation that I shared, once he was kind of home with his wife, completely released. I make sure that anything that I do is in my office. So I'm in my office right now. I've made it very energetic for myself. I even have my sage smudging spray. I have a lot of oils, crystals, a lot of protection, and I keep everything contained in here. So I don't meditate in my bedroom. I don't do Reiki in my bedroom. I make sure that everything's done in here. They do still, though, make their way at times depending on. But usually if I let them know, I'll go live. That's my, so okay, I'll go live this week. And then they'll like, okay. But I don't think about it. You know, I don't walk around the house thinking about it. My family's used to it now. You know, my husband has known for a very long time.
So now, do you like, so how does it work with a client? Like, say, for example, I'm your client. Do I come to you and talk to you about somebody who was crossed over, and then you help me reach out to them and have a conversation? Or how does it, like, can you give us a flavor of how is it working with you in that context?
Sure. So that's actually an aspect that I am still figuring out in a sense, simply because I was in 2019, I was doing readings, kind of, I call it on the down low, for a local shop. And I no longer want to do like actual readings. I want to make sure that I'm able to help support people through a process or however it may be used. So I had a client reach out to me, and she said she was struggling in business and she felt like there was a lot of answers. So she sent me some pictures. She wanted me to really dig in, take a look at the pictures, and tell her what the message was. Well, I don't need pictures, number one, only because it doesn't, like, I don't know. It's almost harder for me if I look at a picture, my brain's trying to say, okay, this must be it. But I kept telling her I'm not getting anything, nothing. And I had a dream the night before that actually was a message, because it was a time period in her life. I was able to say, hey, as we were talking, I had this dream I think it might belong to you. And as I shared it, she said, okay, yeah, that's completely my father, who actually hadn't passed. He was still here. And the messages that she received were not what he was expecting to get. And I think that's probably the biggest thing I like to let my clients know. Like, we might be seeking something, but we're going to get the messages that our angels and our guides want us to hear.
Sure.
My great grandmother, I've tried to connect with her multiple times. I can now, but not for very long. She's just not interested. So, but I remember being really disappointed going to multiple mediums and feeling like, I even asked one time, is she mad at me because I'm here? Because I thought maybe, she would be mad about that. But yeah, so, and it's different for everyone. So I use it from a business perspective as well. I have some clients, you really using that in their business, because I believe we have the answers within us. We already know, but we need to open up those channels and listen and trust. And we need to be aware. This is where the self-awareness really comes in, of really understanding who we are. Because had I never became self-aware, I would probably still be at that same company and not feeling the way that I feel today, which is fully fulfilled, content, happy.
That's so wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, and it's so funny because it's mother's intuition, listen to your gut, whatever you want to say, you know what I mean? And so often we don't. We try to, we're like, you know what I mean? We're like, no, or, it peaks out, but we don't have the self-awareness or the self blank, fill in the blank kind of a thing. So I love that you're kind of bringing all of this to the forefront and kind of just helping others realize so many other things. It's awesome. It's just so awesome.
I think it's really hard sometimes when you have these things like the job that was unfulfilling, your daughter getting sick, and then not knowing whether you could continue on with your job or not, and having the courage to be able to speak that and then follow through and do what you needed to do, because sometimes it isn't always about us making a decision as an individual, a mom, a worker. It's about other people that need us for support, and being able to have those conversations of honesty about what it is that you need in the relationship in order to make these heavy decisions. It's not easy. It never is. The only thing I can say that makes it easier is to be able to get to a place in your relationships where everyone can speak to what they need to. And even if the person doesn't understand you or agree with you, to acknowledge that they're there to support you. And so I'm curious, when you were leaving your job, did you have 100% full-on support in knowing that that was the right thing to do? Because no one would disagree that taking care of a child, that's really important. But I'm just curious, in that particular situation, did you have anything that you had to step into that was difficult around that?
Yeah.
Outside of you?
Yeah, in fact, if we think about when I was talking about intuition, I actually knew the October prior to me quitting, which was the following August. I knew I needed to leave, and I remember feeling that intuitive hit and knowing, but being afraid. I had what my husband always called golden handcuffs. I was actually the breadwinner in the house, and so as far as support, my husband listened to me for a very long time about wanting to leave, and he thought he could just keep giving advice and keep trying to this. So maybe you could just try to find another job and try to do this. And it really had just gotten to the point where I couldn't do it anymore. By that time, my daughter was being weaned off of her medication. She was stable, but it was still scary because we didn't know what was going to happen. And I called him again. There had been an event at work the week before, and I had called him on a Saturday morning. Again, he's an airline pilot, so he was gone. I said, "This is my idea," and he said, "Okay." And I'm not sure he thought I was going to hang up with him and call my boss, and I did. And then I called him back and said, "All right, it's done." And you could, he was happy. He'll say now, like, "Yes, I think it was the right thing to do. Did I really think you were going to do it? Probably not." But I slept. I mean, I gave my notice in August. I was asked to stay on and help with transition and some different things, and so stayed on until really November, but not full time at all. I slept. I was burned out so badly. I slept every morning. I would get up, get the kids off to school. I would crawl back in bed. I would get up and eat lunch. I would crawl back in bed. I would get up, make sure everybody ate dinner, and then I would go to bed. And I did that until November. I slept constantly. Yeah, I was really burned out. And I remember at one point my husband saying, "I'm really worried about you." I'm like, "No, I'll be fine. I have to sleep. Like I have to do this. I have to recover from, what had been just a horrible year of, caring for her and all of the stress from work." But, one thing is definitely for sure, not too long after my family immediately noticed how happy I was. Because there's such a huge change when you're living, when you feel like you're living your purpose. And I didn't have it all figured out by any means. I still don't, but yeah.
Yeah.
And now he fully supports. I tell him all the time, I would never be able to handle the work that I'm doing now without him. He does all of the cooking. He helps with all the kids. He's amazing. So.
Could you help us understand how can we distinguish intuition from mind chatter? Like how do I know? Because I think we are all intuitive at varying degrees. So how do we distinguish intuition from mind chatter?
Yeah, I think the really important piece there is to be still. And when there's stillness, the messages that you're getting in compared to when you're constantly doing or constantly in action, that's where you can, number one, you can kind of look at it from that perspective. The other thing to look for is signs. So you can ask for signs, but if you see signs, if you see repetitive numbers, I've had plenty of clients reach out with the repetitive numbers. I had another client that I let her know that there was going to be a feather on the ground as well as money on the ground.
Pennies from heaven.
What's that?
Pennies from heaven.
Yep. And so it's the stillness. So meditate, make sure that you if you can have time in nature without distraction. So without listening to music or a podcast or anything like that, just stillness. And it doesn't have to be, a lot of people, when I say meditation, immediately, in fact, I was just writing about this today, they're like, I can't meditate. But we don't have to make it a big deal. We don't have to have a fancy pillow or music we don't need all of that. It could be 2 minutes standing in the kitchen at the kitchen sink, just taking in really cleansing breaths. And, notice your thoughts. You'll see your thoughts come in. Don't judge them. I always view them like a cloud floating by, and I just imagine just kind of, like, oh, there's a thought. Let me get it out of here. But being able to do that really allows you to, I feel.
Clear your mind.
I used to honestly think people, pennies from heaven, the feathers, all that stuff after people passed. Same thing like personal development. I thought it was like people I thought it was insane. I really truly did. And then my father died, and sure enough, we were finding pennies places like out of nowhere. Like it was just the weirdest thing. No feathers. I haven't in 10 years. There's been no feathers, but there's been pennies. And the other thing is, to your point, I don't meditate, but I'm still, or there'll be moments out of it seemingly feels like it's nowhere, but it may be like there's an occasion coming up or something's going on. So my father used to sing Rolling Stones songs to my kids. So now anything Rolling Stones is my dad. So all of a sudden a freaking Rolling Stones song will come on the radio, or, when it's fall, whatever it may be. I'll never forget this. Even my daughter, we all know that that's the sign. And before COVID hit, when my daughter started college, it was parent visiting weekend, and we took her to the mall, and we passed the store, and I'm not lying, there was two Rolling Stone shirts with Rolling Stones logo on it, and the four of us, my husband, myself, and my two kids, we all just stood there like, what's up, Dad? You know what I mean? Like we just kind of knew. I'm completely serious. So it's not, I don't even, I think you're right. I mean, look, you know better than me about the meditation, but I think it also kind of shows up if you're open to it showing up for you. And it may show up, in my experience, it's shown up in Rolling Stones, but you have to know. Don't be afraid of it showing up either. I think too, because honestly, it doesn't make me sad. It actually makes me smile. It actually makes me happy knowing that he's there. Like he's showing up. He's there when I need him. Like he always does.
Absolutely.
So I have to share this. As soon as you mentioned like repetitive numbers and such, oh my God, Sarah, I have been, and I am kind of a little bit aware, because I'm a Reiki practitioner myself. I believe in energy. I'm very, very spiritual. I love meditating just because I like the stillness and all of that. So all of that is just fabulous for me. But I didn't understand what these numbers meant, because I was never exposed to that part of it. And oh my God, I have just been like, very novice. I've been going on Google. What does 222 mean? What does 11 mean? Because I am getting that, to your point, 50, and I'm just asking this for the benefit of the audiences, but I wanted to let you know, because I'm sure this is a dialogue that will be helpful, is that when we see these things, right, they are messages, but for us to just walk past them, like you see penny, but you walk past it, you don't realize something about it until and unless you really want to. To your point, you could have just walked past and not really realized, or you saw that there was this rolling stone and it was a message, and those beautiful things. I have been seeing these numbers over and over and over again. Oh my God, it is just so beautiful. And now to a point where I don't have to Google it. I know what 1111 is. I know what 222. So, and it's just been that moment of, so what I do, and you can please tell us what to do for the audiences as well, what to do when we see the numbers, because I know that those are your angels, kind of blessing you, guiding you through and stuff. For me, what I do is I instantly get into the gratitude mode, because it is like they are there, they are watching out for us, they are there with us, encouraging us, supporting us and such. So that's what I do. But could you tell us, like, is that the right thing? Could we do something different? Like, what should we do?
And if I could just add something, sorry. So I pretty much get the same thing. The last few months, it's been really strange because I don't really practice anything, but I've been having these numbers show up, and then a first couple times I obviously ignored it, like what's going on, it's just, and then I'm like, okay, let me check Google. Then I was like, okay, these are angel numbers, like I have absolutely no idea, and then all of a sudden I'm like totally interested, like why am I getting this? It's like, say it through for the 3 days, it'll be like 22 or something, right? And I'm like, I don't understand, like how's there a connection? Because especially with somebody who like doesn't practice anything, I'm talking about faith. So if you, sure, go ahead with that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So a couple of things. I always say intuition is 2 steps, right? It's pay attention and trust. And so it's so easy, like you said, to see a penny on the ground, not pay attention, see repeated numbers, not think much about it. I really feel like our angels are trying to communicate with us. That's why we see those repeating numbers. And if we aren't acknowledging them, they're going to keep finding different ways to get in touch with them. So an example would be before COVID. So it was December, January, and February of end of 2019, beginning of 2020, I kept saying 555. And at that time period, I was working in the shop doing readings a couple times a week. And I remember asking, what does 555 mean? And I knew what it meant. It meant change was coming. It meant, but I was afraid of it. And they were like, you don't need to be afraid of anything. Well, everything changed in 2020, right? And so now I can look back and be like, whoa, okay, I get it now, does that answer your question?
Yes.
Is the same thing true with songs? Because the whole 555 came up, and with a person that I was interacting with, now every time they text me, it's the same song on the radio. That is, to me, very interesting. And so, like Ash has said, she doesn't practice anything. I don't either. But it's like, where do these coincidences come up? The numbers for me, I do accounting, so I'm always looking for patterns in numbers as my background, I would say. But this whole music thing all of a sudden becoming another layer to that just is really fascinating to me.
Yeah. Well, and I know we're going to wrap up, but I would love to share just one other sign story, because I think there's 2 of them right back to back. It's very fascinating to me. And I had to come clean with my husband and tell him I was using him for the signs. But it was really before I did the video and really kind of came out and said who I was. And I kept saying, I was dusting in the bedroom and I was thinking, okay, well, if you really want me to go tell everybody who I am, you're gonna have to give me a sign. Mm-hmm. And I know a really powerful sign is messing with the electricity. So you're just gonna have to mess with the electricity. So I'm dusting away in the bedroom. It's getting dark out and my husband's in the shower and I get done, nothing happened. And I was like, So, I come out and put the dust rag up. A few minutes later, my husband comes out of the bedroom and he's like, "What'd you do to the lights?" And I said, "What?" And he said, "Because the lights dimmed while I was in the shower. What'd you do?" And I was like, well, so the next day I did the same thing with, okay, I can't do that video today because he kind of has some bad energy. And if he's got bad energy, I can't do it. He's kind of crabby about something. So 5 minutes later, he comes into my office and he says, "You aren't going to believe this, but I just got called into work." Because like I said, he's an airline pilot. He's been on reserve. He has hardly flown in the last year at all. And I was like, oh no. And I didn't tell him. I did later when he came home because it happened again. Actually, he got home and I did the same thing. And that time he got called out for a 3-day trip. And I was like, okay, I stopped. I'm done. And he's like, "Stop using me as signs." Like something else. Wow. So you can get very specific. I mean, you can get very specific and ask. And yeah.
That's, wow. Just
wow.
Yeah.
On this powerful note, oh my God, Sarah, it's been interesting. We could go on and on, I'm pretty sure. But this has been really, really amazing and fascinating. Thank you so much for sharing. And we are going to watch out for the numbers and remember you. And thank you for sharing them with us.
This was. I mean, and I follow you, and I'm part of the group, and even I learned so much. Like, there was so much information here for me that was this was really, really awesome. And thank you for saying yes and getting this out into the world. And I'm sure so many others are going to be impacted by this in a good way.
Thank you, Sarah. It's
Yes,
been
thank you for sharing your impact with the world. It's wonderful.
Sarah, before you leave, do you have any intuitive messages for us?
I don't, because I have the boundaries up pretty high. What happened was sometimes if I go live and I do that and I say, okay, any messages, they will flood in and I can't completely shut down. So I actually put it up pretty high tonight.
Nice.
But if I get any, I will definitely let you know.
Please reach out to us. Yeah, definitely do.
Yes, for sure.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Thanks, ladies. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of The Raw Talk, where real authentic women invite other fearless women in to have candid conversation. If you like what you've heard, then we want you to like and subscribe for more content. We'll see you next time.